Chapter 24. In the dark. Prudence flicked the light switch. Soft fluorescent white light replaced the darkness. The clock on the bedroom wall showed 3 a.m. The bed sheets were crumpled. Several pairs of shoes lay strewn across the floor. The curtains at the windows were opened, exposing the blackness of the night. "Constance," she called, her voice wobbly. "Cock-a-doodle-doo. Cock-a-doodle-doo." A rooster answered from across the hill. "Blasted roosters," Prudence muttered, and hissed her teeth as she marched to the back door. It seemed that all the roosters in the community had wakened to mock her. She heard their cries coming from all directions. "If it's not one thing, it's the other," she said, and tested the back door. It was just as she'd left it before she'd retired for the night. Locked. "The front door," she said, and rushed back into the living room. The front door was ajar. A sigh of relief escaped her. Constance must be sitting on the veranda. She did that some nights when she couldn't sleep. She shoved the door open. Then she knew. She just felt it. She wouldn't find Constance rocking herself in her chair or standing by the veranda rail, looking out into the darkness. What was she going to do? Lola had the weekend off. She'd insisted that she should do something fun for the weekend. She was young, she'd told her so she shouldn't spend all her days around old people and illness. Lola had wanted to stay, but she'd insisted that she take a break. "Look what I did, eh Lord," Prudence said, throwing her arms in the air. She'd sent Lola away the same weekend that Constance had chosen to test her. "If anything happened to Constance, everybody will blame you," a voice whispered out of the shadows. She glanced around the living room. She was alone. "I must be losing my blasted mind, too," she said, but had to acknowledge the truth in those words. Everybody had told her to take Constance to a home. She couldn't manage Constance by herself, they'd said. She should remember that she was not as young as she used to be, they'd said. She was just killing herself by taking on that burden, they'd said. She'd listened to them. She believed that sometimes it was best to just listen, let people talk. Mouth was made to say anything. They wouldn't understand, unless they'd walked in her shoes. They thought they had the answers, even though they knew nothing about her relationship with her sister. It was not perfect. No relationship was perfect. They'd had many ups and downs, but they'd been there for each other over the years. She couldn't pass her responsibility on to some strangers. After changing into her street clothes, Prudence prepared to go out into the morning air. She strolled through the kitchen to the back veranda and braked when she saw the drizzle streaking through the darkness from the glow of the light. For the last few days, the rain had started in the afternoons, about 3 p.m. Why did the rain have to start early this blessed day, Lord? She threw that question out into the darkness. She dragged on her water boots and stood, arms akimbo. What was she looking for? The umbrella in the corner caught her attention. "Yes, that's it," she said, grabbing it. "What else?" She patted her pockets. Her phone. She needed her phone. She might need to call somebody. She stepped out into the early morning drizzle. Where was she going to find Constance? She exited the yard through the archway and squelched through the mud on the track that led up to the old house. Who knew? Constance might have gone up there. The light from her flashlight battled the mist that mingled with the darkness and the slanted streaks of water. At the top of the hill, she pushed through the damp bush that had reclaimed the path to Constance's house. In the overgrown yard, she aimed the flashlight at the house and at the overgrowth before climbing the steps up to the small veranda. "Constance definitely not up here," she said, peeling strands of cobweb from her face. She stepped back into the rain. Wonder if Constance gone down to that school again? Every morning these days, like clockwork, she gone down to that school. It's a good thing the people down there know her and humor her. Poor thing think that she's still a teacher down there. Wonder if Constance had sent her down there at this hour of the morning? I wouldn't put a thing past her. Prudence talked to herself as she squished through the muck back to her house. She trudged down the steps to the sodden road. It is time that they fix this road. From I know myself, the road bad. Bad when I was a child. Worse now. Constance out there in this rain and darkness. She probably lying in some gutter somewhere. The picture of Constance writhing in pain in the mud floated into Prudence's mind. She quickened her steps, and before long she was in the schoolyard. One quick glance showed her that Constance was not there, but she picked her way around the buildings, shining her flashlight to the fringes of the compound. Where could Constance have gone? Whether she'd turned left or right after she descended the steps from the house, she could be anywhere, up in the hills or on her way to Port Antonio. What should she do? Prudence pulled her phone from her pocket. It was after 4 a.m. The older people in the community should be waking then. She dialed Rose's number. She really scatterbrained, but she will know what to do, she muttered. Prudence trudged down to the bus stop. She settled herself on the concrete bench and waited, while her thoughts tied themselves into knots. Where was Constance? Why did Constance have to leave at night? Stupid question. Night and day are one and the same to her when her head take her. Prudence leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. It was almost light. She would just rest her eyes for a few minutes. Get up and go look for your sister. She waiting on you. She started. Who out there? She called. She raised herself from the bench and walked to the entrance. There was nobody to the left or right. She glanced through the window behind her and quickly averted her eyes. The rain had graduated from a drizzle to a downpour. She peered through the slanted sheet of water at the bridge. She saw no movement. She frowned and glanced through the window behind her, again. She'd heard her mother's voice, but Miss Delories was lying in the churchyard behind her. They had buried her 20 years before. Prudence shrugged. Probably just a dream, or I am hearing things, she said. Rose must have called everybody in the village because Prudence had not finished settling herself back onto the bench before John, followed by what seemed like all the boys in the community, burst into the bus stop, some carrying umbrellas while others draped themselves with plastic. Big John, everybody called him, but Prudence refused to call him that. If Rose had wanted to call him Big John, she would have put that on his birth certificate, she'd often told Constance. Big and SOSO John, Constance called him, behind his back. Greetings gave way to questions. She couldn't answer any of them. How should she know where Constance might have gone? There weren't many places that she could have gone. The district had houses, a few shops, the health center, the post office, churches, and the primary and basic schools, surrounded by hills. The river. The words escaped her lips and shocked her. River. John echoed. A murmur ran through the building and all the boys rushed to the low wall across from the bus stop. Prudence joined them. Nobody would go to river, in this weather, Aunt Prudence, John said. Look pond a river. Prudence stared at the muddy, foaming water. Constance not normal, John, she said, almost whispering. Suppose her head had told her to go to the river. They used to go swimming up the river when they were children. Prudence leaned over the wall to peer into the river. If Constance had gone to the river and slipped on the stones, only God alone could help her. Prudence's heart raced. What a thing can happen to people. If it not one thing it is the other, she whispered. She couldn't be idle when Constance may be floating down the river that very minute. She'd heard enough stories of people trying to cross a river when it was heavy and being washed away. She stifled the scream that was rumbling in her throat. John hugged her. Go home, Aunt Prudence, he said. We will find Aunt Constance. After the boys had fanned out in all directions, Prudence hesitated. Suppose Constance hadn't gone to the river, where else would she have gone? She returned to her seat in the bus stop and racked her brain for answers to her questions. She left her seat and returned to the low wall at the side of the road. The river was definitely rising. It lapped at the banks. Very soon, it would be a dirty raging force pushing tree limbs and other debris downstream. She gasped as she watched the water gurgling around the central support of the bridge. No, Constance is not that stupid, she said, and turned down the road, fighting to control her umbrella as the breeze joined the rain in tormenting her. She would check one other place before she went home. She entered the gate and plodded through the sodden grass, causing the mud beneath to ooze up around her boots. They need to do something about this churchyard. It is a shame to see the condition it in. Her parents' graves lay barren at the side of the church. Well, Constance would be really stupid to be sitting out in the open on a day like this, she muttered, and took shelter under the eaves of the church.